boxing on Channel 5. Defending his name, his legacy, Harlem Eubank. Battling his way up the super lightweight rankings. Can he remain undefeated? Big Fight Live, Eubank versus Usyk, Friday at 10 on Channel 5.
Andrew McCART, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. I'm here with my big mate who's, I tell you what, your fighters are saying some nice words about you, Billy Nelson. I mean, you've lost the weight, have you changed your mindset as well? What's going on?
No, I've not changed nothing. It's just the Roger Mellis giving down a wee bit.
That's it. Well, busy little gym this morning. I rocked up and you were doing pad work with your new fighter who's came to the gym in Lewis Crocker. We'll talk about him. I had the privilege to watch big Nick Campbell and Martin Bakole do a 6-round spar, which was, well, the big men have got fights coming up and they look sharp already. You've got young Ryan Clark there who's got a fight coming up in 2 weeks' time as well. You've got Sultan Zurbek who just fought last week. The gym's flying.
I'm very happy. Now we've got three, kind of world-class fighters and three younger guys. Hopefully, prospects. Kieran Tarleton, he's 2-0. Ryan Clark, he's my wee protege. He's my wee fat man that turned good. And big Nicky Clark. I'm hoping Campbell. I'm hoping that people will see the improvements in him in his first fight. But we'll judge Nicky in maybe 3-4 fights down the line.
Well, let's start with Lewis Crocker then. Obviously, I know Lewis very, very well. I've been at least maybe 8 of his fights, 10 of his fights, whatever it may be. He's in that 147, that welterweight division, which is a stacked division, a tasty division, a dangerous division, always has been. He carries power. You can just look at his record. He's got an exciting style. So you've had him, since Wednesday? So Wednesday, Thursday. You've had him for 3 days. What have you seen in him?
Like you say, power. But he's got underrated boxing ability. I've watched him. Well, when I got asked to work with him, obviously I watched a lot of him, and I've noticed he's got very good boxing skill set. But that power is frightening. He punches so hard, especially to the body, and I love body punching. I love his style of fighting. So hopefully we'll gel well together, and you'll see a vast improvement in him, because he's been inactive for the last 15 months due to his injury. A few fights got called off last year through no fault of his own. So he's going to come back, and again, once we work with each other for a wee while, judge him in 3 fights time, 4 fights time, how far he's come on. But he's got a great boxing brain, good IQ, so there's every chance that I think he'll win the British title comfortably, and he'll fight for a world title next year. I would imagine.
I mean, like I said to him, he probably needs the fights after being inactive, so he needs to stay busy. But let's jump on to the heavyweights then, because we've got a heavyweight fight tomorrow night in Joshua and Franklin. But you've got 2 big heavyweights yourself here. Let's start with big Nick Campbell. I mean, from what I saw in that spar, he looked a different fight already from what we saw. So that's obviously testament to yourself. But
no, it's a testament to Nicky and Nicky's ability to take things in. I'm there advising him and teaching him. He's got to be the one that's got to implement it. It's not down to me. It's down to the boxer. The boxer's got to get credit.
Well, I'll skip my own arse for that. Yep, you're right. But testament to you, big man. Sorry about that, Nick. Yeah. So, what improvements have you seen in the last sort of month or two that you've seen Nicky Campbell? I mean, he's got a fight coming up in 2 weeks. So, what improvements have you seen from the moment he first walked into this gym to that spar there?
There's a lot of technical things that we've worked on, but most importantly is listening. And you've got 2 ears and 2 eyes for education and 1 mouth. You listen to what's getting told to you, and work on those things. I think his head was a wee bit pie-eyed, at one stage, thinking he was maybe achieved a lot in the game, and he hadn't. And I brought him back to reality, and it's worked wonders for him, I believe.
And you've got another heavyweight in Big Martin Bakole, just to do a little segue to the other guy you've got here. Now, Big Martin's obviously, like I said to him in our interview, I said to him when the Tyson Fury Usyk fight fell through, there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, who can they fight? Who's next?" Obviously, people want Joyce, because Joyce has got that style. He's earned his right. Then they go Dubois, number 1 with the WBA. Then Hrgovic has got number 1 in the IBF mandatory. But then people are starting to throw Martin Bakole's name in there. Before they didn't. If you go back 6-7 months, maybe even a year, they never mentioned Martin Bakole to ever fight for a world title. But I've heard a few snippets from guys, even Sam Jones has said, put Martin Bakole in there. Do you feel that sentiment as well? Do you feel like Martin Bakole is there and he should be held in the same names as all the rest of them I've just named?
100%. If Daniel, obviously he's got his own doctor's medical report, but I'm led to believe that the WBA might get their own independent, or Usyk's people are talking about getting a doctor to assure that he's fit enough to fight. But if he's not fit enough to fight, it should be the next highest ranked challenger, which is Martin, and Martin would jump at a chance of fighting Usyk. Martin will beat Usyk, but they know that. So, but basically, we've got to put ourselves mandatory to fight whoever be the champion of the WBA. With regards to if Usyk beats Daniel, then he's probably got to fight Hrgovic or Tyson for all the belts again. So it's delaying things, or he might give up the WBA. You never know, but you just don't. There's a lot of permutations, a lot of things can happen. I'd have liked to have seen Tyson fight Usyk, and then the belts get fragmented, and a few boxers getting a chance to fight for world titles. Because if they had they were all talking about rematch clauses, those two can make a lot of money without the belts being on the line. You know what I mean? They're exceptional fighters, and if there was a rematch, then they could have had it without the belts.
Obviously, being Martin Bakole's got a fight coming up in 3 weeks. You've got a busy April coming up, Billy, in terms of fights. Martin Bakole's against a guy called Hulk, and I must admit, I don't know much about Hulk. I don't know what his real name is. All I know is his name is Hulk.
He's a
well done, you.
He's an ex-Olympian for the Ukraine. Big unit, strong, come forward fighter. He'll come forward for as long as he can against Martin, I'm sure, until Martin decides he's not coming forward, if he indeed comes forward at all. He's fought in some obscure venues, so he has gymnasiums. He fought Kevin Johnson in a gym, and I thought it was quite a close fight. It was a close fight, and he went the distance also with Sokolowski, who's a good friend of his, Campbell. But by far, this is the Ukrainians' hardest fight. And
He'll be up for it then.
Oh, he'll be up for it, but he'll not be up for it as much as Martin Bakole. He wants to take his head off. He wants to make a big statement here.
That was going to be my next question.
Because after this fight, the minimum we fully expect is a final eliminator status against whoever, Jamel Miller, maybe anybody. I mean, Wilder's name got mentioned maybe a couple of months ago, as you know. As soon as I mentioned it to Martin, he's like, bang, yeah, I'll stop him. And he believes he would. People laugh, the people laugh, but let me assure you, this man's a serious man, Martin Bakole. You don't, what boxers do you know, top heavyweights that have said, I want to fight Martin Bakole? Zero. Middle are doing it. None of them. There's a reason for that.
Again, how many interviews have we done, Bill, and we've spoken about Martin Bakole getting into the position, but this is the first time that he's been mentioned amongst all these guys for these title shots, and he's got himself into position. So as a coach, manager, you've been in the game long enough. You mentioned the permutations between Usyk and Tyson Fury, so you know the ins and outs yourself without even looking at the ins and outs, if that makes sense. So how far are you, as a manager and coach, how far are you and Martin Bakole away from that world title shot, and can it be done this year?
Oh, it could get done this year. It could get done in the summer if Daniel doesn't pass a medical examination. I'm sure the WBA, we've already expressed that if that fight didn't happen, we'd gladly step in and fight Usyk. No problem. Or Daniel could get put in regular champion in recess. Martin fight Usyk, and Daniel would be guaranteed the winner. We've no problem with that at all.
I mean, big Martin Bakole's a nice, friendly giant, isn't he, man? He's always always laughing and giggling, man. I don't want to do his laughter, but that's what he's like. He's always stood there, he's always giggling and laughing, which is good to see. But in that ring, it's a switch, and we've seen it. He's so nice and polite, and he's just a nice guy, lovely guy to be around. But in that ring, you can see, even when he's sparring, you can see it in his eyes that there's something in him that just switches. I mean, that's a scary thing, isn't it?
Very, very much so. I mean, he's a fantastic talent, but as is a lot of these boxers. I mean, it's nice to hear that Sam Jones listen, me and Sam have a lot of backward and forward, but he knows, he's seen Martin firsthand with Joe, how good Martin Bakole is. You know, he recognises that he is a very, very talented man. But, you know, he's got a lot to fight for, Martin. He's got a family, he's now got 2 kids, a wife. He's looking to invest in Scotland and stay here for potentially the rest of his life. So people are standing in his way and he's going to remove them.
Another segue, because obviously the gym was busy about 3 minutes ago. Now everyone's departed, Billy. It's just me and you in this gym. Yeah, big heavyweight fight that you put. I know you're a boxing man. You watch all boxing. Joshua versus Franklin. Now, I've said you're a coach. You've been in the game long enough. When you look at obviously the back-to-back losses from Joshua, look at Jermaine Franklin's last fight against Dylan White. A lot of people, well, many people thought that Jermaine Franklin won that fight. Well, obviously, you agree with that as well. Then, so how much of a banana skin fight is this for Joshua? Is it a banana skin fight for Joshua?
Every fight's a banana skin at heavyweight. Look at Martin against Hunter. Granted, there was we're not making any excuses. There was an issue, but Michael won the fight, and he's a great fighter, Michael Hunter. But it was a banana skin. But Jermaine Franklin, very good fighter. I think a few folk are underestimating him. You know, certain fighters like Martin Bakole, he struggles, and no struggles, but he's not the same fighter against a smaller fighter, a smaller guy. And I think it's quite apparent that was the case with Hunter, and in AJ's case, Usyk. Granted, Usyk's a special talent, but he was still a smaller fighter. You're punching down, and these wee guys are, or the wee guys, and it's a blind punch. You see, you're coming over the arm. That's how Mike Tyson was so successful. It was all hooks. I mean, you never seen him throwing particularly a lot of 1-2s, did you? Because he's not going to hit him, but he'll roll under the shots. Right hooks, left hooks, body shots, uppercuts. That was his specialist shots. You know, and well, but the boy Franklin's got a good skill set as well. I think it'll go to points, and I hope it goes to points, because it'll be good for AJ's mentality. You know, going forward, his mental strength going forward. It'll hopefully get the shackles of that the Usyk defeats out of his system. There's no disgrace getting beat with Usyk whatsoever. He's a fantastic fighter. But I do see AJ winning this fight, as long as he uses his attributes right. On this occasion, you know, and he just simply never done it. I don't think he changed first fight to second fight against Usyk. He never used his attributes right. He hurt him once. Hurting him once is not enough. If you hurt somebody in the heavyweight division, you need to jump on him like a rash. You know, you can't give him a second opportunity, because it might be you next time.
He's got a new coach in Derek James. Now, Derek James trains Errol Spence and all them guys down in Dallas. So the style that Derek James has, you've seen it with the guys that he's got in Charlo and Spence and all them guys. That probably suits AJ a little bit better. So, I mean, good choice in your eyes with Derek James?
Oh, magnificent coach. You can only improve with him. But will he revert to type? Well, it remains to be seen. Like I say, in that corner, you've got 2 ears and 2 eyes. You've got to focus solely on what your trainer's telling you. And if the trainer's telling you something that you've got to try and you've got to try to the letter to implement it in that next round. Will he do it? I hope he does. Because if he does, he'll be successful. If he doesn't and reverts to type, it could be a different fight.
I mean, a third loss back-to-back, devastating for Joshua, but can he come back from it? He's hinted, but he said he's just saying it for what people want to hear, that he will, that he will retire after this fight. But, I mean, it would be devastating a third fight, but can you see Joshua retiring if he loses this fight?
I couldn't answer that. I wouldn't like to think that he'll get beat here. But he's put himself under a bit of pressure, because I watched an interview after the Dylan White Franklin fight, and he said, "Oh, Dylan should have had him out after 4 or 5." So that's basically saying I'd have done that myself. And if he doesn't do that, then those comments might come back and haunt him and bite him in the bum. So I hope he just focuses on getting a good win, whether it be points. Listen, see, at the end of the day, you get paid the same for points and as what you do a knockout. But in his circumstance, after the 2 fights against Usyk, I'd like to see him go the distance and get some rounds under his belt. Because he faded twice in the 2 fights against Usyk, didn't he? And that was against a smaller guy. So hopefully he can get a good solid 12 rounds under his belt, and then come and fight Martin Bakole in Congo on the anniversary of the Rumble in the Jungle. I can 100% make that fight in Kinshasa against Anthony Joshua on the anniversary of that fight, with the backing of the Congolese government and Boxer. We'll make that fight 100%.
The anniversary of the Rumble in the Jungle. That's why not?
His family originated from Nigeria. It was nearly a neighbour of Congo. Let's see who's the best African fighter.
Wow, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll ask Coogan to cover that fight, but I wouldn't mind going over for that one, because that would be something special. Billy, I've had you for a good 15 minutes. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, big man, and get your thoughts on it. Your gym is absolutely flying at the moment, and it's good to see. And thanks for letting me stay to watch that the big men have a little 6-round spar there, and it was enjoyable. But Billy, as always, thank you so much, mate, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, mate. All the best.
Cheers, Billy. Thank you.
Because I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt rings.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,